What's going on, my fellow Jedi and Padawans? Welcome back to another Jedi gaming video. Thank you guys so much for coming back to the channel. If you guys are new, welcome. Thank you guys so much for the support on yesterday's video. You guys are killing it with the likes and just the views on it. It means a lot to me, and we finally hit our 500 subscriber goal, so thank you guys so much. I will be doing that little giveaway for a couple Amazon gift cards for like $5 to the subscribers, so stay tuned for more information on that in a future video. But I want to get into this video right here because we are going over the new dungeon, the Grasp of Avarice on the Cosmodrome. This thing is beautiful, the mechanics are super fun, and we have some nice iconic loot coming from this dungeon here, as well as the start of the good old Gjallarhorn quest, our galley. So let's get right into it. As you can see, me and my friend here are clearing some ads from the infamous loot cave on the Cosmodrome. Once you start clearing these ads, as you can see, they drop little engrams on the ground, and when you pick them up, you get a debuff on the left side of your screen called Burnished by Riches. Now, this Burnished by Riches, you can count up times like 30 about on a character, but as you can see, there's a timer that's counting down from 29 seconds. If you don't do something with those riches by the time the timer hits 0, you will instantly die. So to get rid of those riches, you actually go to crystals around the maps. In this part right here, it is actually inside the loot cave. You go to the back of the loot cave and stand next to this crystal here, and it actually gets rid of your riches. You can see it counting down. It's actually a mechanic that you see throughout the dungeon pretty consistently. You have to collect those riches from certain enemies and then turn them into crystals to either unlock damage on a boss or open up a new area for you guys to go through. So that's just this first area right here. Once you open it up, you actually fall down into the Cosmodrome and start working your way through a nice, pretty linear path. You jump around the left side of this cavern right here, deal with a couple enemies, and then you head down the crystal where you will deal with some more hive enemies down below. And it's just a nice little linear path, like I said, to the next area, which when we get there, we deal with the next mechanic of the dungeon involving traps. So just follow the path that I do right here, and we will reach the next area, which is the rusted Gangplank area. Once we reach this area, there will be a bunch of switches around that when you activate them, they either open doors or activate traps. So in this first room here, you open the left door on the wall, jump over the pressure plate, and there will be a switch on the opposite side of the room. If you hit the pressure plate, spikes will come out of the wall and kill you instantly. So after you hit that switch, the big container opens up on the wall, and then you go into this tube where you hit the next switch, which opens up 6 gates above you actually in that first room that you were just in, and you work your way up into that. So just follow this path here, jump across the chasm, and then work your way underneath this little platform where you can activate the switch, and then make your way back to that first room that we were in. So once you work your way back to that first room, start jumping upwards because you have to jump in one of those 6 tubes that is above you. Once you work your way up where you can jump in the tubes, it is the far right one that you have to jump into. Once you jump into it, you can see you step on the pressure plate, and right above you, a trapdoor opens and you head upwards. You just follow the path that it has set out for you, and we come to our next little mechanic here where we have to make a little S pattern through these certain rooms based on the switches that we hit to get everything opened up. So we start here by accessing this first gate, and we head over towards where Mr. Certified is, and we clear out this room of Thrall. Once we activate the switch at the back of the room here, we leave via another door that opened up when we activated that switch, jump across the chasm, rinse and repeat, kill some Thrall in this room, activate the switch at the back, and then we can once again jump across the chasm where we hit one of our switches that opens up the actual end panels on that chasm where we have to get to actually continue through the dungeon. So once you hit the switch that opens up one of the end cages, there will be some enemies that spawn, and you just backtrack your way through the rooms that you were just in, where you can actually reach the end gate. And there will be our last switch, which opens the other side of the chasm, and then we are on to the next part of the dungeon. Once you open up the last door in this area, you get to a choice of 2 doors again. Choose the right one on the far wall, and we get to our next encounter, which involves our next mechanic within the dungeon here. So, as you can see, we're in this nice little open area with a couple different doors that are labeled 1 through 4. There are enemies around this area that you can wipe out, and there are switches that you activate to open up each of these doors. So once we jump down to the middle platform here, we first initially head to the number 1 door, and at the number 1 door we hit a switch which opens up the door for number 3. Then we head to number 3, do the same thing, wipe out some enemies. That'll open up the door back for number 1. Once we go to number 1, we clear that area out, and it actually opens up the door for number 2, which once the door for number 2 opens up, a vandal will come out that has a Scorch cannon. You grab that Scorch cannon because we use it to open up the final door actually. So once you get the Scorch cannon from that vandal, you come over to where door number 4 is, and as you can see on the right side of the door, there is a little egg or a bomb looking thing that you have to shoot with the Scorch cannon. You shoot the Scorch cannon at the center opening of the egg looking thing and hold your trigger down when you shoot, so the bolt of the Scorch cannon charges up, and once it charges up fully, it'll explode by itself, causing that last door to open, and that's just a mechanic that we use throughout the rest of the dungeon as well. Once that door opens up, there is a trap up the stairs where you can dip sideways into one of these side little rooms to prevent yourself from being killed, and we move on to the next part, which is actually super exciting. We are at the first boss fight. So the first boss right here is this gigantic ogre, and we combine a couple different mechanics that we've learned so far within the dungeon, and this is actually the boss room for the Fallen Saber Strike, so it's a nice little homage to that within the dungeon here. So we start out by going to the front of the room, avoiding the ogre, and we destroy a vandal that has a Scorch cannon, because we use the Scorch cannon to open the left and the right side rooms in this area to collect our engrams, which give us that Burnished of Riches debuff, which we then turn into the crystal that is behind the ogre. Mr. Certified shoots the little egg, lets the shot from the Scorch cannon charge all the way up, so when it explodes, the doors stay open, and within the room is where our enemies that drop those engrams are. So you wipe out the room as a team, and you will collect about 14 of those engrams total between everybody on the team, not per person, and you head to the crystal to actually turn them in, which will take down the boss's shield. You have to turn in about 30 of these engrams to get his shield down, so you will have to do the left side first and then the right side afterwards to get a total of around 30 of those engrams, and then you actually start your DPS phase. So once you clear out the second room and come to the crystal at the back of the stage right here, once you deposit all of your engrams, and the crystal will start to glow, and you will be able to do damage on the boss. So I drop a well right here, and we just start doing damage with 1k. Pretty easy, pretty fast to actually wipe this guy out, even with 2 of us. So once you do that, you just rinse and repeat as many times as you need to unlock his shield. You clear out enemies in the room by opening it up with the Scorch cannon, collect those engrams and turn them into the crystal here, and once he's open, you do damage, bada bing, you cleared him out, and you get your first chest with the rewards. Now that you have defeated our first boss, we move on to the Sparrow portion of the dungeon here. It is super fast paced, and it is kind of challenging. So there's a nice little tip: if you have the always on time Sparrow from the Scourge of the Past raid, throw that on, because the enemies will aggro a little less on you, and it makes it slightly easier to go through it. So once you make your way through the path that it sets for you, you come in this chamber here, and the front left panel you activate, and it opens the front doors for you. When you go right out of the gates, go to the right hand side, and you will see like a half circle on the ground with a red dot on top. Those extend the fuse time for the bombs, making it easier to get to the next area on this Sparrow part. So right here, you hit the right one first, and then you kind of go back towards the middle and left, and you hit your second one before you go to the first bomb A. Once you get your first bomb A, you hop back on your Sparrow, head down the path, and again, to the right side of the room by the fallen ship right here, there is another bomb extender, and you kind of do the same thing back across the middle to the left side of that area, and you will get your second timer extender before you get to B. Once you capture B, the next extender that you hit is through the container. You go through the middle of it, and it's just to the right. You collect that, and then kind of the same mechanic, go back to the left following the river through this little hole here and path, and it's actually on the wall, and you grab it automatically before you hit C. Once you capture C, we only have one more to grab. Once again, head to the right where there's the little ramp. You will see the first bomb extender. Grab that, and then out of the 2 gravity wells, choose the far left one. Go through that, and you will hit your last bomb extender on your way to D, and then you fall down. There is a couple enemies. You kill that, capture D, and the Sparrow part is done. It is super fast paced, I know it is, but as a fire team, you can send one person just going for the bombs and the other person going for those time extenders. That's the easiest way we figured out to do it, because the enemies do aggro pretty hard and your Sparrow does blow up quite often. But once you reach the end, we are almost onto the boss room where we can finish up this dungeon. So once you capture D, this encounter is over, and you head towards the gigantic hole with the white crystals in it. Head downwards where we reach our next encounter involving servitors and creating bombs out of them. So out of these platforms, there will be a servitor that is covered in a shield, and we actually use the Scorch cannon and these other gravity well cannons to move from platform to platform. So when you are on the cannon area, you can hold a button to rotate the cannons so it shoots you in the right area, and when we get to it, it shoots the bomb in the right area as well. So, as you can see in the center straight above the platform, there's a gigantic fallen shield where it looks like it has half circles with a orange slit in it. Kind of looks like an eye around the edges. This is what we shoot the bombs at. The bombs are created from the servitors that are actually shielded, because we involve that mechanic of picking up the engrams and depositing them at a crystal, which unlocks the servitor. We destroy the servitor, it becomes a bomb, and then you push it towards the gravity well and shoot it at that fallen shield. So as you can see right here, Mr. Certified and I are at the island with the shielded servitor. We start dealing damage to the enemies around it, and they drop those engrams, which we collect, and it takes about 20 in this encounter to unlock the servitor's shield. So once we collect about 20, we come into the center room, which on every single island there will be a center room like this with a crystal. You deposit your engrams, your motes, at this crystal here and deal damage to the servitor once it is unlocked. When it is unlocked, you will see it kind of turn a darker color and start rolling around with a timer above its head. That is the timer for the bomb, so you only have a certain amount of time to push it towards the gravity well. Once you push it towards the gravity well, make sure the gravity well is pointed correctly at the eye up on that fallen shield that you want to destroy, and then use your Scorch cannon that you get from the enemy on that island that you are on to shoot the little battery, the egg-looking thing, to actually activate your gravity well and send the bomb towards the center and hit that eye to do damage on the shield. You will have to do this 4 different times at 4 different islands, and the order does seem to be pretty random, so it's not always going to be the top right one first, the top left one first. You will have to search around a little bit and use your Scorch cannon and your gravity wells to traverse those different islands. But once you destroy the shield, you go to the center island and collect your loot from the chests there, and that final gravity well actually that's in the center island, you point straight up and you get shot through that shield actually once you deactivate it, and we are on to our final boss fight, which is actually pretty simple when you break down the mechanics. So once we reach the boss room, it is fairly simple overall because it involves all the mechanics that we have been using consistently throughout this dungeon here. So the boss will spawn on the center platform here, right by the crystal where we turn in our engrams for that Burnished Riches debuff. Once the boss spawns, he will spawn 2 mini bosses alongside of him, an invisible vandal and then also a sniper shank. Both of these are yellow bar enemies that hit pretty hard, so deal with them first before you actually get into the mechanics to start doing damage on the boss. There will also be ads that spawn on each of the sides of the platforms, so there is a right side, a left side, and a middle. There will be a bunch of dregs that spawn out of each of these areas, but they are pretty easy to clear, so just make sure you are managing those at the same time. Once you destroy those first 2 mini bosses, you can actually start the mechanics of collecting your motes and depositing them at the crystal. So one of the guardians will grab the Scorch cannon from the vandal that drops it, and you will use the same mechanic that we have been using. Shoot it at the little egg on either the left or the right side. One of them will be open and the other one will be closed. You shoot it at that side, let it charge up all the way, and when it explodes, there will be 10 motes that drop in each of the 3 areas that I talked about before where the dregs spawn. 10 on the left, 10 on the right, and 10 on the middle. So make sure that you are collecting all 10 on your side and then head to the middle platform where you have to collect those extra 10 as well if you are doing this with 2 people, because it takes 60 of these engrams to actually unlock the boss for DPS. So as you can see, once the Scorch Cannon explodes and the engrams come from the wall actually in the containers, you collect them, go to the middle, deposit them on the crystal, which watch out for the boss because he does teleport and hit pretty hard. So you deposit your first set of 30, rinse and repeat, go to the other side for the Scorch Cannon, you shoot that ball again and create that explosion. It'll drop the 30 motes, 10 on the left, 10 on the right, 10 on the center. You collect the 30 collectively between the fire team and then go to the center platform, deposit them at the crystal, and it'll do the same thing, start to glow, and the boss will actually teleport to the front of the stairs on top and will stay up there. So you drop a well right next to the crystal and start your DPS on the boss right here. That is the entirety of the mechanics of the boss room. You just rinse and repeat that as many times as you need to do damage on the boss before he is actually defeated. And every time the damage phase is over, those mini bosses will spawn again. So you will have to deal with them first before you actually do damage on the boss, because if they are on the center platform while you guys are doing damage, they do eat through a well pretty fast even, especially that shank with those snipes. So that is it for the dungeon. I know it was a little long, but we went over every single mechanic for you guys, how to do each boss, how to do the Sparrow part, and at the end you get your nice classic D1 loot, Eysaluna 1,000-yard stare, and start that Gjallarhorn quest for this crazy exotic rocket. This dungeon is beautiful. Thank you, Bungie, so much for giving us something so fun. Hopefully this helped you guys out. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.